Everyone warned her about men like him. Powerful, untouchable, emotionless, the kind of man who doesn't notice people. He uses them. But what no one told her was what happens when a man like that does notice you. Because Elias Vaughn wasn't just watching her succeed. He was studying her, learning her, memorizing her, for 2 years, and the moment she tried to walk away, he did something no billionaire had ever done before. He risked everything to claim her in front of the entire board. If you love intense billionaire romance stories with powerful twists, hit subscribe right now, because this story only gets crazier from here. There are some people whose presence does not enter a room politely. It arrives first as pressure, then as silence, and finally as the quiet realization that everyone around you has stopped breathing the same way. That was how Elias Vaughn stepped into my life. Not with charm, not with noise, but with the kind of authority that made a 48th floor boardroom in downtown Toronto feel suddenly too small for everyone else inside it. Nia Brooks had prepared herself for difficult rooms her entire life. Raised in Detroit by a mother who worked double shifts and still found the strength to press her daughter's school uniforms before dawn, she had learned early that excellence was not a gift people handed Black women. It was something they demanded from themselves, over and over, until the world had no choice but to take notice. By 32, Nia had earned a Wharton MBA, turned around 2 failing portfolios in New York, and become the youngest senior financial strategist ever transferred into Vaughn Global's Canadian headquarters. Still, none of that stopped the curious glances when she took her seat at the long obsidian table that morning. Then the doors opened. Elias Vaughn walked in wearing a charcoal suit so sharp it looked cut from control itself. He was the billionaire founder of a global infrastructure empire, the kind of man business magazines called Visionary, and employees called Winter in human form. He did not smile. He did not greet anyone. He simply sat at the head of the table, glanced once at the skyline beyond the glass walls, and then turned those dark, unreadable eyes toward the people who helped make him richer by the minute. When his gaze found Nia, it paused. Not long enough for anyone to comment, just long enough for her to notice. "You're late," he said. Several executives immediately looked at Nia, eager for discomfort they hoped did not belong to them. But Nia only placed her tablet on the table and answered in a steady voice, "The meeting starts at 9. "It's 8:59. A few heads turned toward the clock. Silence followed, heavy, dangerous. Then something almost invisible touched the corner of Elias Vaughn's mouth before vanishing. "Noted," he said, and began the meeting as if he had not just tested the only woman in the room who did not flinch under his attention. For the next 2 hours, Nia dismantled a flawed expansion model with such precision that even the older executives stopped pretending not to be impressed. When she finished, the room went quiet again. Elias leaned back, fingers steepled beneath his chin, his eyes fixed on her like he was solving a problem no one else had noticed. Then he said 4 words that changed everything. "She stays on this account." No applause followed, no praise, but in a world built on power, those 4 words were worth more than approval. And though Nia did not know it yet, the cold man at the head of that table had just made a decision that would unsettle far more than a boardroom. There's a difference between being seen and being studied. Most people never learn it until it's too late. Nia Brooks didn't notice it at first, not because she wasn't observant, but because nothing about Elias Vaughn's attention looked inappropriate. That was the problem. It was precise, controlled, almost invisible, and that made it far more dangerous than anything obvious. The first sign was timing. Meetings that had never required executive oversight suddenly included him whenever Nia was presenting. High-level strategy sessions he usually delegated, he now attended. Quietly, without explanation. He never interrupted her, never praised her, never even acknowledged her presence directly. But he watched, always watched. Not the way men sometimes do when they're interested. Not careless, not hungry, calculated, like he was mapping something only he could see. Nia told herself it was normal. Top performers attracted attention, especially in a company like Vaughn Global, where efficiency was currency and weakness was quietly removed. Still, something about it unsettled her, not fear, not exactly. More like awareness. The kind that makes you straighten your posture when you don't know why. Then came the late nights. It started with a single email. Stay after. 8:30 p.m. No greeting. No explanation. Just instruction. Nia almost declined. She didn't know anyone extra hours, not even a billionaire CEO. But curiosity has a way of dressing itself as professionalism. And by 8:27 p.m., she was still seated at her desk, the rest of the floor dim and nearly empty. You're still here. His voice came from behind her. Nia turned slowly. Elias Vaughn looked different without the boardroom around him. His suit jacket was gone, sleeves rolled slightly, tie loosened just enough to suggest he was human, though nothing about him felt relaxed. If anything, the absence of witnesses made him more present. You asked me to stay, she replied evenly. His gaze dropped to the financial model on her screen. You restructured the acquisition forecast. Yes. You didn't request approval. Nia met his eyes. It didn't need approval. It needed correction. Silence followed, but not the kind that suffocates. This one stretched, observant, almost interested. Then he said something unexpected. You're not intimidated by me. It wasn't a question. Nia tilted her head slightly. Should I be? For the first time, something shifted in his expression. Not a smile, not warmth, but something less cold than before. Most people are, he said. Most people don't look you in the eye, she replied. That did it. Not visibly, not dramatically, but something in the air changed, like two forces recognizing each other for the first time. His phone buzzed, breaking the moment. Instantly, the mask returned. Controlled. Untouchable. Go home, Miss Brooks. But as Nia gathered her things, she felt it again. That awareness, that presence. And when she glanced back once before leaving, he was still watching her. Not like a boss, not like a CEO, but like a man who had just found something he wasn't prepared to lose and didn't yet understand why. Attraction doesn't always begin with desire. Sometimes it begins with resistance, the kind that builds quietly between two people who should remain strangers but don't. That was what happened the night Nia Brooks stopped being just another strategist in Elias Vaughn's company and became something he could no longer categorize. It was raining the way it only rains in Toronto, cold, relentless, turning glass towers into blurred reflections of themselves. Most of the building had emptied out hours ago, but Nia was still there, seated alone in a conference room, refining projections that had already been approved. Not because she had to, because she didn't like leaving things unfinished. That mindset had taken her far, but it had also taught her something else, that in rooms like this, she was never just representing her work. She was representing her presence, her intelligence, her right to be there. You're correcting a model that already passed review. His voice came from the doorway. Nia didn't flinch this time. She turned, calm. Passing review doesn't make it right. Elias stepped inside, closing the glass door behind him with a quiet click. The room instantly felt smaller, more private, more intentional. There was something about standing across from him without a table between them that shifted everything. In meetings, he was power. Here, he was something else. Still controlled. Still unreadable. But closer. Too close. You adjusted the volatility curve, he said, stepping beside her screen. Yes. You lowered exposure by 6.2%. Yes. A pause. Then, why? It was a simple question. But it wasn't asked like one. It was asked like a test. Nia folded her arms lightly, meeting his gaze. Because your original model assumes stability in markets that don't respect stability. His eyes didn't move. Emerging markets don't collapse gradually, she continued. They shift suddenly. And when they do, companies like this, she tapped the screen, don't lose millions. She looked at him steadily. They lose control. Silence. Heavy. Focused. Real. Most executives would have softened that answer, reworded it, made it easier to accept. But Nia didn't, because she had learned something long before she stepped into rooms like this. If you shrink your voice to be accepted, you will never be heard when it matters. Elias leaned slightly closer to the screen, but his attention wasn't on the data anymore. It was on her. You speak like you've seen that happen before. It wasn't curiosity. It was observation. Nia hesitated for half a second, then answered honestly. I've seen what happens when people assume systems will protect them. A beat. They don't. Something shifted in his eyes then. Not softer, not warmer, but deeper. Because for the first time, he wasn't looking at her like an employee. He was looking at her like someone who understood pressure, who understood consequence, who understood what it meant to earn space in rooms that were never designed for you. You're not like the others here, he said quietly. Neil let out a small breath. I've noticed. That earned something close to amusement. Barely there. Gone in a second. Another pause stretched between them. But this one didn't feel tense. It felt aware. You stayed, he said. You asked me to. I didn't ask, he replied calmly. I instructed. Nia raised an eyebrow slightly. And I chose to stay. That did something. Not obvious, but undeniable. Because Elias Vaughn wasn't used to choice. He was used to compliance. And for the first time, he was standing in front of someone who didn't move because he said so. She moved because she decided to. The rain tapped harder against the glass. The city blurred. The room quieted. And in that quiet, something began. Not romance. Not yet. But curiosity. Sharp. Magnetic. Dangerous. The kind that doesn't announce itself. It builds. It watches. It waits. And neither of them realized it yet. But that night, they stopped being just boss and employee. They became something far more complicated. Respect isn't always denied loudly. Sometimes it's questioned quietly, in polished sentences and careful tones, just enough to make you doubt yourself without giving you anything you can fight directly. That was the kind of room Nia Brooks walked into that morning. And this time, it wasn't just about performance. It was about permission. The executive review meeting was larger than usual. Senior board members had flown in. Investors joined virtually. The air carried that particular tension reserved for decisions that could shift millions, if not more. Nia stood at the front, tablet in hand, her presentation cued behind her. She had spent days refining every number, every projection, every contingency. Not because she doubted her work, but because she understood the room. You may begin, Elias Vaughn said from the head of the table. His tone was neutral, controlled, unreadable, but Nia didn't miss the way his gaze settled on her. Steady, focused, almost grounding. She started strong, clear, direct, precise. Her voice carried across the room as she walked them through the expansion strategy, highlighting inefficiencies others had overlooked. Charts shifted behind her. Numbers aligned. Risk factors recalculated. At first, the room listened. Then it changed. With respect, one of the senior board members interrupted smoothly, leaning back in his chair. Perhaps someone with deeper familiarity with regional markets should lead this portion. It was subtle, polite, almost reasonable, but everyone in that room understood what it meant. Nia felt it, not as shock, not even as anger, but as something familiar. The quiet implication that her credentials needed reinforcement, that her presence needed justification. She could have softened, deferred, handed it off. She didn't. With equal respect, she replied calmly, meeting his gaze. The model accounts for regional volatility using data sourced directly from those markets. I'd be happy to walk you through it, if you'd like clarity. A few heads turned, not at her words, but at her tone. Steady, unapologetic. The board member's smile tightened slightly. Clarity isn't the issue. Then what is? She asked. That was the moment the room shifted. Because now it wasn't just about numbers. It was about challenge. Before he could respond, no. Elias's voice cut through the space. Calm, sharp, final. Silence dropped instantly. She will continue. The board member blinked, caught off guard. I was simply suggesting. I know what you were suggesting, Elias replied, his tone unchanged, but colder now. And you're incorrect. No raised voice, no dramatic emphasis, but the message was unmistakable. The room went still, because Elias Vaughn didn't intervene lightly, and he never overrode senior board members in open discussion. Nia didn't look at him. She didn't need to. She felt it. That shift. That decision. And for the first time since she entered that room, she wasn't standing alone. She finished her presentation without interruption. Every number landed. Every projection held. Every assumption reinforced. When she was done, silence followed again. But this time, it was different. It wasn't a doubt. It was an acknowledgement. Elias leaned back slightly, his eyes still on her. "Proceed with her model," he said simply. No debate. No vote. Just a decision. The meeting moved on. But the damage, or perhaps the change, had already been done. Because as executives avoided eye contact and board members shifted in their seats, one thing became clear. Nia Brooks was no longer just being evaluated. She had been chosen. And in a company built on power. That came with consequences. As she gathered her things afterward, she felt it again. The whispers, the glances, the questions no one would ask directly. Why her? Why now? Why him? But the real question, the one no one had the answer to yet, it was far more dangerous. Why did Elias Vaughn care? There's a moment, quiet, almost invisible, when something professional begins to feel personal. Not inappropriate, not obvious, just different. And the most dangerous part? You don't notice it when the line is crossed. You notice it when you realize it's already gone. After the boardroom incident, nothing changed. At least, that's what everyone pretended. Elias Vaughn remained the same, controlled, distant, efficient. Meetings ran on time. Decisions were sharp. His tone never wavered. But for Nia Brooks, everything felt different. It started with proximity. She was now included in high-level strategy sessions that technically didn't require her role. International calls, investor briefings, late-stage negotiations. No explanation, no announcement, just presence. And Elias was always there, not hovering, not interfering, but present in a way that felt deliberate. Like he wasn't just observing outcomes anymore. He was observing her. One evening, long after most of the building had emptied, Nia found herself standing outside his office. The lights inside were still on. Of course they were. Elias Vaughn didn't seem like the kind of man who ever truly stopped working. She knocked once. "Come in." His office at night felt different. Less corporate. More real. The city lights stretched endlessly behind him, reflecting against the glass walls. Papers were neatly arranged, screens dimmed to a low glow. Controlled, but quieter. "You wanted the revised projections," she said, stepping inside. He didn't immediately respond. His eyes moved from the screen to her, and stayed there. "You changed your approach," he said. "I refined it. You removed the conservative buffer." "Yes." A pause. "Why?" Nia set the tablet down carefully. "Because the buffer wasn't protecting the company." She met his gaze. It was protecting hesitation. Silence, but not empty. Focused. Intentional. Elias stood slowly, walking around his desk. Not rushed. Not casual. Measured. "You don't hesitate," he said. It wasn't praise. It was an observation. "I've learned what hesitation costs," she replied. Her voice was calm, but something beneath it held weight. Experience. He stopped a few feet away now, close enough to shift the air. "And what does it cost?" he asked quietly. Nia hesitated this time. Just slightly. "Opportunities," she said. Then, after a beat, "Respect." Something changed in his expression. Not visible enough for most people to notice, but Nia did, because for the first time, he wasn't evaluating her answer. He was understanding it. "You've had to earn both," he said. It wasn't a question. Nia gave a small, almost amused exhale. Most people don't get them handed over. A subtle pause. Then, some of us just get better at taking them. That did something. Not dramatic, but real. Elias's gaze held hers longer now. Not cold, not distant, present. "You don't adjust yourself to fit the room," he said. "No," she replied simply. Another pause. Longer this time. "You make the room adjust to you." The words settled between them. Heavy, unavoidable. And suddenly, this didn't feel like a conversation between a CEO and his strategist anymore. It felt like something else. Something neither of them had defined. You should go home, he said finally, but his voice wasn't as firm as before. Nia didn't move immediately. Is that a suggestion, she asked quietly, or an instruction? A flicker of something crossed his face. Brief. Dangerous. This time, he said, stepping back slightly, it's a suggestion. That was new, because Elias Vaughn didn't suggest. He decided. Nia picked up her tablet slowly, but as she turned to leave, she felt it again. That awareness. That pull. And just before she reached the door, You stayed again, he said. She glanced back. Yes. A pause. Then, so did you. For a second, neither of them looked away. And in that moment, something became clear. This wasn't just proximity anymore. It was choice. And the more dangerous truth, they were both starting to make it. If stories like this matter, comment and subscribe to Melanin Chronicles. Control doesn't disappear all at once. It fractures, quietly. Then suddenly, everyone sees the crack. The annual Vaughn Global Gala wasn't just a celebration. It was a performance. Power dressed in silk and strategy. Investors, executives, media, every move watched, every interaction measured. For Elias Vaughn, it was just another room to dominate without effort. Until Nia Brooks walked in. She hadn't planned to make an entrance. But the moment she stepped into the ballroom, the energy shifted. Not loudly, not dramatically, just enough that conversations softened and attention redirected. Her gown wasn't extravagant. It didn't need to be. It was confident, intentional, unapologetic. The kind of presence that didn't ask to be noticed. It required it. Across the room, Elias felt it before he saw her. That shift, that disruption in pattern. When his eyes found her, he stilled, completely. It lasted less than a second, but it was enough, because men like him didn't pause. Not for anything, not for anyone. He recovered quickly, turning back to the conversation in front of him. But something had already changed, and Nia felt it. That awareness, that pull, even across a crowded room. It wasn't long before someone approached her. An investor, confident, polished, practiced. The kind of man who understood rooms like this and moved through them easily. You must be the strategist everyone's talking about, he said smoothly. Nia smiled politely. I'm part of the team. And the most interesting part, I imagine. She didn't encourage it, but she didn't shut it down either. Because this was how rooms like this worked. Connection, visibility, opportunity. Dance, he asked. For a moment, she considered saying no. Then she remembered where she was, and what it meant to be seen. Yes, she said. The music was slow, elegant, controlled. But across the room, Elias Vaughn's control began to shift. He didn't move immediately, didn't interrupt, didn't react. But his attention was locked, unmoving. Every turn, every step, every moment that man's hand remained on her. Elias noticed. The conversation around him faded, voices blurred, because something unfamiliar was rising beneath his composure. Not anger, not exactly, something sharper, more possessive. And then he moved, not rushed, not careless, measured, intentional, the kind of movement that draws attention without asking for it. By the time he reached them, the room had already begun to notice. Thank you, Elias said calmly. I'll take it from here. The investor hesitated. We were just... I'm aware. That was enough, because tone matters more than volume. And Elias Vaughn didn't repeat himself. The man stepped back. And just like that, Nia was no longer dancing with him. Elias's hand replaced his. Firm, certain, resting at her waist. He didn't ask. He led. The shift was immediate. The space between them, smaller. The tension, stronger. You don't need to entertain him, Elias said quietly. I was networking. You were smiling. Nia's breath caught slightly. That's allowed. His grip tightened, just enough to be noticed. I don't share well. The words were soft, controlled, but they carried weight. And for the first time, Nia saw it clearly. Not curiosity, not observation. Claim. You don't get to decide that, she replied just as quietly. Something dangerous flickered in his eyes. Not anger. Something deeper. You're right, he said. A pause. Then, I don't. But he didn't let go. The music slowed. The room watched, even if they pretended not to, because this wasn't subtle anymore. This was visible, and visibility came with consequences. When the song ended, he still didn't release her. You were something that draws attention, he said, his voice lower now. Nia held his gaze. I didn't wear it for you. Another pause. Longer. Heavier. I know, he replied. And somehow, that made it worse, because there was no control left in that moment. Only truth. And across the ballroom, whispers had already begun. Because the Ice King had just shown the world. He wasn't as untouchable as they thought. And the most dangerous part? This was only the beginning. Secrets don't always reveal themselves with noise. Sometimes they wait, quietly, hidden in plain sight, until curiosity walks straight into them. 3 days after the gala, everything felt normal. Too normal. Elias Vaughn had returned to his usual precision. Meetings ran clean. Conversations were brief. His distance perfectly restored. If anyone had questioned what happened that night, they found no evidence to support it. Except the shift. Subtle, unspoken, but real. Nia felt it in the way people looked at her now. Less dismissive, more careful, as if they were recalculating her place in a system that had just changed without explanation. But Elias? He gave nothing. No acknowledgement. No conversation. No mention of the moment that had quietly rewritten the room. Which is why that evening felt so ordinary. Nia stayed late again. Not because she had to. Because thinking was easier in silence. The executive floor had emptied out hours ago. Lights dimmed. The city outside stretched into a quiet glow of steel and reflection. She gathered her files and headed toward Elias's office to leave a report. The door was slightly open. That alone was unusual. Elias Vaughn didn't leave things open. She knocked lightly. No response. Just a faint light from inside. She stepped in. His office was exactly as expected. Immaculate, controlled, untouched. But something was different. A panel near the far wall, barely noticeable, was slightly ajar. Nia paused. She should have left. She knew that. But curiosity doesn't ask permission. It pulls, and before she could stop herself, she stepped closer. The panel opened with the slightest pressure. What she found inside wasn't chaos. It wasn't anything reckless. It was organized, precise, intentional. One wall held strategic drafts, future expansions, acquisition models, long-term projections. That made sense. The other wall didn't. Nia's breath slowed. Photographs, dozens of them, carefully arranged. Not random, not careless, calculated. And every single one included her. A still from her first presentation. A candid shot in the hallway, mid-conversation. A printed screenshot from an internal broadcast. Even a security still, her adjusting her sleeve in the lobby. Different angles, different moments, different days. Too many days. This wasn't recent. This was time. Collected. Preserved. Curiosity can be expensive. His voice came from behind her. Nia didn't turn immediately. Her eyes were still on the wall. Still trying to understand what she was looking at. For how long? She asked quietly. Silence. Then, 2 years. Now she turned. Elias stood in the doorway. No jacket. Tie loosened. Expression unreadable. But his eyes were not cold. They were exposed. You've been watching me for 2 years, she asked. Observing, he corrected. That's not better. A small pause. Then, I didn't intend for it to become this. This, she repeated, gesturing to the wall. His gaze shifted briefly to the photographs, then back to her. My one inconsistency. The honesty landed harder than anything else. Nia crossed her arms slightly, not defensive. Grounding. Why? She asked. He stepped inside slowly, closing the door behind him. Because you don't behave predictably, he said. That's your reason? No. Another step closer. Because you challenge outcomes I've already calculated. A pause. And because you look at me, his voice lowered, like I'm human. That did it. Not the wall. Not the time. That. You could have said something, she said quietly. And risk altering the variable, he replied. Nia frowned slightly. You're not a system, she said. No, he agreed. Another step closer. You're the one variable I couldn't control. The space between them shifted. Not tense, not soft, inevitable. I should report this, she said, but the words lacked weight. You won't. Confidence, not arrogance. Why not? Because if it frightened you, he said, holding her gaze, you wouldn't still be here. Silence. Heavy. Honest. And he wasn't wrong. Nia exhaled slowly. I don't know what this is. Neither do I, he admitted. That was new. Elias Vaughn didn't deal in uncertainty. But now, he was standing in it. With her. I built everything in my life on control, he said quietly. His hand lifted slightly. Hesitated. Then gently brushed a loose strand of hair behind her ear. Careful. Measured. But I kept this, he continued. His eyes locked with hers. And now that you've seen it. A pause. I don't intend to pretend anymore. The room felt smaller. Closer. Because secrets lose power once they're exposed. And now, there was nothing left to hide. Only a truth neither of them could ignore. This wasn't new. It had just been hidden. And the most dangerous part? He had never planned to let it go. Power doesn't like uncertainty. It doesn't tolerate variables it can't control. And when it finds one, it removes it. Quietly, efficiently, without asking permission. The email arrived at 7:12 a.m. Short, polished, final. Subject, strategic reassignment. Effective immediately. Nia Brooks would be transferred back to the New York branch too. Support cross-market alignment. No discussion. No warning. No choice. Nia read it once. Then again. Not because she didn't understand it, but because she understood it perfectly. This wasn't about strategy. It was about distance. She sat still for a long moment, the early morning light filtering through her apartment windows, casting soft shadows across the room. No anger. No panic. Just clarity. They had seen enough. The gala. The shift in meetings. The attention. Elias Vaughn had lost control, publicly. And in a world built on perception. That was dangerous. By 9 a.m., the office already knew. Whispers travel faster than facts. I heard she's being moved. Board decision. Too much attention. Nia walked through it all with quiet composure. Head high. Expression neutral. She had built her career before this company. Before him. She would survive after it. That was what she told herself. Her office felt smaller as she packed. Laptop. Documents. The essentials. Her hand paused briefly over the red silk gown, still folded carefully in its box. She closed it, placed it in her bag, not as a memory, but as a reminder. She wasn't running. She was being removed. And there was a difference. The elevator ride down was silent, too quiet. 48 floors of reflection. When the doors opened into the lobby, everything felt distant, muted. Marble floors, polished surfaces, people pretending not to stare. She walked toward the exit. Each step is measured, controlled, almost free. Then, the elevator behind her opened. The shift was immediate, not visible, but felt, because when Elias Vaughn entered a space, it changed. He didn't look composed. No jacket, tie loosened, eyes darker than she had ever seen them, focused, unyielding. Nia. Her name, not her title. She stopped, slowly turning. The lobby stilled. You're not leaving, he said. It wasn't loud, but it carried. It's already been decided, she replied calmly. Not by me. A pause. That's not how this works, she said. His gaze sharpened. It is when it concerns you. The words landed differently now. No longer subtle. No longer controlled. Direct. This is bigger than us, she said quietly. Your board made a decision, and they made it without understanding the cost. He stepped closer. Which is, she asked. His jaw tightened slightly. You. Silence. Heavy. Unavoidable. Nia shook her head faintly. You can't challenge them on this. Watch me. There was no hesitation. No calculation. And that was what made it dangerous. You'll lose leverage, she said. Your authority. I don't care. The words cut through everything. Because Elias Vaughn always cared. About optics. About control. About perception. But not now. Not with her. Board members began to emerge from the private elevators, drawn by the disruption. Mr. Vaughn once started. He didn't look at them. His focus remained on Nia. You don't get to disappear because they're uncomfortable, he said. I'm not disappearing, she replied softly. I'm being reassigned. Same thing. A beat. Then, his hand reached for her suitcase handle, pulling it gently back from the exit. Not forceful, but certain. You're not leaving. The lobby held its breath, because this wasn't a discussion anymore. It was a line being drawn, and everyone could see it. Neil looked at him. Really looked. Not the CEO. Not the billionaire. The man. You don't have to do this, she whispered. His expression shifted. Just slightly. I know. A pause. Then, I'm choosing to. And that was the moment everything changed. Because this wasn't about control anymore. It was about choice. And Elias Vaughn had just made his. In front of everyone. There are moments in life when power is tested. Not quietly. Not strategically. But publicly, where retreat is visible and decisions become irreversible. That afternoon, Elias Vaughn didn't just walk into a board meeting. He walked into a confrontation. The emergency session was called within the hour. By the time Nia stepped into the boardroom, every seat was filled. Senior directors, legal counsel, investor representatives dialed in from across continents. This wasn't a discussion anymore. It was judgment. Floor-to-ceiling windows framed Toronto's skyline, but no one was looking outside. Every eye was on Elias, seated at the head of the table. Still, composed, dangerously calm. Nia took her seat 3 chairs down. Not beside him. Not yet. The chairman spoke first. Mr. Vaughn, your conduct in the lobby has raised serious concerns regarding executive objectivity. Polished words, carefully chosen, but the message was clear. You crossed a line. Elias didn't respond immediately. He let the silence stretch, because silence in rooms like this forces people to hear themselves. Be specific, he said finally. A senior board member leaned forward. Your professional relationship with Miss Brooks is influencing operational decisions. There it was. No implication. No disguise. Nia remained still, composed, because reacting would only confirm their narrative. She has become a variable, another added. A distraction. The word lingered in the air. Sharp. Dismissive. Elias's expression didn't change, but something beneath it did. You call her a distraction, he said evenly. She recovered a failing expansion strategy that would have cost this company $40 million. No one interrupted. She identified structural risk in the Singapore merger before any of you did. A subtle shift moved through the room. Unease. And now, he continued, you recommend removing her. The chairman's jaw tightened. We recommend restoring balance. That was when Elias moved. Slowly, deliberately. He stood. The room instinctively quieted. Because when men like him stand, something follows. He adjusted his cuff. A small, controlled gesture. Then he stepped away from the head of the table. That alone caused tension to spike. Because Elias Vaughn did not abandon his position. He walked around the table, unhurried, measured, and stopped beside Nia. Not across from her, not observing. Beside her, a few people shifted. Others stared openly now, because something was happening, and no one could stop it. You mistake clarity for imbalance, Elias said calmly. Then, without looking, his hand found hers, and held it, not briefly, not subtly, firm, certain, visible. The room reacted, quietly, sharply, because this was no longer speculation. This was confirmation. She is not a distraction, he said. His voice was steady, unshaken. She is the most effective strategist in this room. The chairman leaned forward. This is exactly the kind of personal bias. No, Elias interrupted smoothly. That single word cut through everything. This is judgment. His thumb shifted slightly against Nia's hand. Grounding. Intentional. You question my objectivity, he continued. Yet you ignore measurable results. A pause. Then, he said it. Or is the issue not performance? Silence. Heavy. Uncomfortable. Because now, they all understood what he was implying, and no one wanted to say it out loud. Another board member scoffed lightly. This is becoming inappropriate. Elias finally looked at him. Fully. Inappropriate, he repeated. Then, calmly, deliberately, I disagree. A beat. Then the line. She is mine. The words didn't echo. They didn't need to, because the meaning landed instantly. Gasps. Stillness. Disbelief. But he didn't stop. Not as property, he added, his tone unwavering. As partner. Another pause. As equal. And just like that, the narrative shattered. This wasn't control. This wasn't dominance. This was a choice. Public. Irreversible. The chairman exhaled slowly, clearly recalculating. You understand the implications of this? Yes, Elias said. No hesitation. No retreat. And I accept them. Silence filled the room, because there was nothing left to argue. He had already decided, and in doing so, he had forced the entire room to adjust, not to his power, but to his truth. Neil looked at him then, really looked, and for the first time, there was no distance, no question, only certainty, because in a world where everything was calculated, he had just made the one decision. The world doesn't stay quiet when powerful men break their own rules. By morning, it had already begun. Headlines spread fast. Not loud, calculated. Vaughn Global CEO defies board in unprecedented move. Power shift or personal risk? Who is Nia Brooks? Markets reacted cautiously. Analysts speculated. Investors questioned. But inside Vaughn Global, something else happened. People adjusted. Not because they understood, but because Elias Vaughn had made something clear the night before. He wasn't asking for approval. Nia stood in her apartment, city light filtering through the windows, her phone buzzing endlessly on the table beside her. Messages, calls, opinions. She ignored all of them, because none of it answered the only question that mattered. What happens after the moment? Behind her, a quiet sound. You're awake early. She turned. Elias stood near the doorway. No suit, no structure, just a man who looked like he hadn't fully slept. For once, he wasn't composed. I didn't sleep much, she said. He nodded slightly. Neither did I. Silence settled between them. But this time it wasn't tense. It was honest. You changed everything yesterday, she said quietly. His gaze held hers. I clarified something that was already there. A pause. At a cost, she added. For me, he corrected. That mattered. More than he probably realized. You built your life on control, she said. And you gave that up. He stepped closer. Not rushed. Not uncertain. I built my life on certainty, he replied. His voice is lower now. Steady. You are not certain. Nia exhaled softly. That sounds like a risk. It is. No hesitation. And you're still choosing it, she asked. He stopped just in front of her. Close enough to feel. Yes. That one word held more weight than everything that had happened in the boardroom. Because this wasn't pressure, wasn't visibility. This was quiet. This was real. I don't want to be protected, Nia said gently. His brow furrowed slightly. I want to be chosen. A small pause. Then, his hand lifted. Not claiming. Not controlling. Holding. I am choosing you, he said. No audience. No witnesses. No power play. Just truth. And somehow, that mattered more than everything else. The days that followed didn't return to normal. They reshaped. The board didn't challenge him again, not publicly. Investors stabilized once performance remained unaffected. The company moved forward. But something fundamental had changed. Nia no longer walked into rooms needing to prove she belonged. She walked in knowing she did. Not because of him, but because she had always earned it. And Elias, for the first time in his life, stopped trying to control everything that mattered. Weeks later, they stood on the rooftop of his penthouse, the city stretching endlessly beneath them. The air was cool, quiet. You smile now, Nia said softly. A faint curve touched his lips. Rarely. More than before. He considered that. Then looked at her. I built an empire by eliminating uncertainty, he said. A pause. You are the only decision I made without calculation. Nia met his gaze. And do you regret it? No. Immediate. Certain. Because some decisions don't need a strategy. They need courage. And as the city lights flickered below them, one truth became undeniable. Elias Vaughn didn't lose control. He redefined it, not as power over everything, but as the ability to choose what mattered most. Some men rule the world with logic, but the rare ones, they risk it for the one thing logic can't control. And that's the thing about powerful men. The world sees their control, their discipline, their ability to win every game they play. But what the world doesn't see is the one moment they stop calculating, the one person they can't outthink, can't outmaneuver, can't replace, because Elias Vaughn didn't just break his own rules. He rewrote them, not for power, not for reputation, but for her. And maybe that's the real truth about love. It isn't safe. It isn't predictable. It's the one decision even the most powerful man in the room can control. If this story pulled you in, don't stop here. Subscribe now for more powerful, emotional stories like this, and tell me in the comments, would you have stayed or walked away? Because sometimes the most dangerous thing a man can do is finally choose someone in front of the world